Hi there, I'm Sandy Allnock, the author of Bible Journaling Made Simple, both the book and the workbook. And in this video today, we're going to work on making Clothe Me in a Garment of Praise, which is the page that's on the cover of the main book. It's from Isaiah 61. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. To begin this one, I have my sketch ready, and you can download a copy of this from the sketch gallery. And what I'm going to do is trace the lettering. If you decide you want different words on yours, you can print them out of your computer in whatever fonts you like and trace them into your Bible. Just put it underneath. Now this one is drawn onto some vellum paper, and it's what I like to kind of work my artwork out on. But you can just put a piece of printed paper underneath there as well. So if you print the sketch off, that will work just as well. To make the flowers, I'm actually creating a mask, which is something that's going to block the color from landing on that spot. And I've followed along on the flowers and made just a little arc out of a sticky note. Make sure you cut them out of the part that has sticky on the back, and it's going to fit in all of the flowers. All the flowers should be around the same size in the sketch. They're drawn kind of loosely. And you can make your own arrangement with them, or you can follow the arrangement in the sketch and just put one of the little flower shapes down on each one and stick them on your page. Now Isaiah 61 happens to have a large space on the right hand side. You may only have a column if you use this technique for a different verse, and that's perfectly fine. Just make your own arrangements with these little fan-shaped sticky notes. I'm going to begin by making some puddles of paint, and it doesn't matter a whole lot how thick they are, although as you do this technique, you'll discover that you like having thicker or thinner paint based on what you like and what color you want to get in your final artwork. So I've got my stuff ready, my paint is ready, and I'm going to put a sheet of copier paper underneath just so I don't splash down the side of my Bible or make a mess of some sort. That's going to protect it. And I'm going to take a baby wipe, dip it into that puddle of paint, and start tapping. I'm just using regular baby wipes. These aren't fancy baby wipes. They're not expensive. I got them at Costco. And if you use thinner paint that has more water in it, you'll get really light color. And if you use thicker paint, then you'll get darker color. It really depends on what you're looking for. The one that's shown on the actual cover of the book is going to be lighter than this one because I was replicating it, and it's really hard to replicate exactly. So I'm trying to do it, but it will come out a little bit richer in color because of that. But I'm going to tap all that color on, and I like to do the whole page myself. I'm a whole page Bible journaler because just kind of stopping in that column sometimes it doesn't feel like enough. For some folks, going over the words is distracting because then you think, oh, I can't read it. It really depends on you and how important that is to you. I can still read the words. I don't put any pigment on that's too dark, and I try to make sure that I keep it very transparent. That's why I use Daniel Smith paints when I watercolor. Some watercolors are a little more chalky, so they're a little bit more like a gouache than a watercolor, and so the thinner the paints, the better. But you can actually do the same kind of a thing with acrylics and water them down enough that you can see through them and see the words through them. But I just love to have the whole page filled with color. And since yellow is my favorite color, that ends up on a lot of my pages. So I'm going to spread that color around. Now, if you decide you didn't like how dark some of those areas were, you could take that damp baby wipe and use a clean portion of it and wipe off some color. Or you can do what I'm doing here, which is add some richer color to some other areas. Like around the part where there's not writing, I can afford to put more color down out toward the edge and leave it lighter more on the inside because that's going to leave it more readable. And once it's a little bit on the dry side, I can pull these off really gently, just be super gentle, pull them kind of sideways to the edge rather than straight up. And now I have all these beautiful little fan shapes that I can use for my flowers. But I'm going to first iron it, and I have a hot iron, and I'm just going to kind of go over it just a few seconds. It doesn't need a lot, and you can always peek, try it and see whether or not you need more and see how that works. But just a regular old hot iron. If you were to try to use a heat gun or something like crafters have, you may do some damage to your Bible. So that's why I like to do an iron, because I can be in control of that and iron both the front and the back. You can see the back didn't have any color coming through. For the flowers now that I'm going to add in here, I'm going to mix up a puddle of some phthalo blue and some really light color. And I'm going to start by scribbling the flower top, I guess you can call it. Now, I call these thistles when I've used them before. It's just kind of a flower that has a little poofy on it. And I'm going to create some stylized things. These are not technically thistles, but I'm making some sort of scribbly dots and leaving some white paper showing through. And I'm going to do a couple layers of things over these, so perfectly fine to work with really light colors, especially if you're new to watercolor and you're nervous about it. I can also wipe off a little bit, take a baby wipe or a Kleenex and just dab off some of that color if I get too much on there. But here's a closer view. So you can see I'm just dancing the brush across the surface. This one is a silver brush by the Silver Brush Company. And over on the BibleJournalingMadeSimple.com website, there's all the supplies that I use listed in the shop, so you can look for those types of things. You can shop through my links, or you can go find them in your local store. But if you want to see what the supplies are that I prefer, I do focus on things that don't bleed through, and they allow you to see the words through whatever it is that you're creating. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit and zoom through some more flowers. They're all done the same way. And I'm just adding color to the base of the flower, that bottom part of the triangle, after I get the top sort of decorated, and just let it blend into that bottom section. For my lettering is challenging. And, there's lots of people who have different ideas on whether or not it has to be beautiful or elegant lettering. This one I traced off of my computer text. So if you kind of create some beautiful text in your computer and print it out, you might have some success in getting things to work out right. Other times I just use my handwriting, and I don't argue with myself over the fact that my handwriting isn't great. And I also don't worry about the fact that my painting of letters is not all that great. But I do like to use different fonts. I like to use a large kind of a font for some of the important words, and then do some lesser words in different fonts as well, in tiny fonts. And you can also mix and match pen with watercolor. This was just an experiment to see how the watercolor would work. So I'm layering on another color, another dark layer of color on these flowers, so that I can start creating a little more depth, a little more interest in each of the flowers. And zoom in here a little bit. And each one is going to have a petal on either side. And these are very stylized, so they don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, they don't look real. Just very stylized, graphic kinds of flowers. And giving them 2 petals on either end, and then just a little kind of floofy at the bottom. I don't know what that little thing is called. Little floofy at the bottom. But you can also take some water, like a clean brush like I just did, and soften up some areas so that you don't have hard edges all over the place. I like to have a mix of hard and soft edges. And then just paint some random leaves in there. And, kind of pay attention to where your stems are as they come down from each one of the flowers, and let a few of the leaves come off of each one. And you can put as much or as little detail in as you wish. And I'm adding another layer of that blue color again, so that I can add a little more depth to the flowers. And there I went too dark, so I can just dab that color off with a baby wipe. Do the same thing up here at the top and finish off these flowers at the very top edge. Dab off a few that are bothersome. Now, throughout the process, if you need to continue to go back and iron periodically, then go ahead and do that, because it's going to make your next layer a little less wrinkly. It's not going to smooth it out perfectly, but it'll make it a little bit better. And now for my final touches, I'm adding some much darker blue. And it's the same blue, but I've mixed it to a different consistency. I've mixed it so that there's more pigment and less water. And that's going to give me a little more detail. And then I can add a little bit more of that thicker color down in the base of the flower, in the base of that triangle, and use the brush and a little clean water to move that color out and soften that edge. And it gives a lot more drama to my flowers. Same thing now with the leaves. I've mixed a slightly thicker green, and that one is, I believe, a sap green. And I'm going to do half of each leaf. I'm not going to worry whether it's the top half or the bottom half or the left or the right, and light direction and things. Just enough to give those leaves a little bit more dimension. Just a tiny bit. Doesn't have to be much. And notice that I'm being really careful because I don't have the copier paper underneath to keep me from dribbling down the side of my Bible. So there you go. That is how I made the flowers for the cover of the book. And if you're interested in more information about it, if you're not watching this video on the website, then please go see it. Or you can just sit here on YouTube and watch some more videos and check out some more about Bible journaling. I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless you, and I'll see you in another video. Thanks for stopping by.